Hey guys, I'm Tim with BleepinJeep. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I built this welding table. Now, I've wanted a workbench like this for about 4 years, and I built this one off of my own design, but I built it specifically to use these clamps that are available from Miller. These have really nice feet on here and a pad that allows you to drop them into a slot, and then you can clamp anything on a table. Whereas if you were using a regular C-clamp, you can only reach about the clamp depth on the edges of the table. But these clamps allow you to drop them into the slot and slide them to any position that you need to and clamp whatever it is that you're working on any square inch of the table. Let's get to it. Alright, so I just got to the scrapyard and they've got all kinds of remnant, they call it, out back. It's super cheap. It's way cheaper than new materials. Let me flip the camera around here and show you guys. I just got everything loaded up. I always like to gut wrap big loads like this, which it just means I wrap the strap all the way around and then ratchet it down tight, and that way it kind of constricts it like a snake, but it holds it good and tight. And I probably should have a red flag on the back of this. I think the law in Oregon is if it sticks out past a vehicle more than 5 feet, I could argue that. It definitely sticks out, but I think I could get away with it. So anyway, it's only about 10 miles back home, so we're gonna take the back roads and should be good. So on the scale, weighed out, this is 198 pounds of steel, and it's all right on the roof rack, right in the center. And it should be just fine. It's the strap. Sometimes when you strap stuff on the roof, if the strap is flat, it vibrates really loud in the wind. I know how to fix it though, so I'll probably stop up here and I'll show you guys what's going on. And if you strap something on your roof, you have this problem, I'll show you how to correct it. Alright, so if you leave the straps flat like this, the wind catches them, vibrates, so you got to put a twist in them. And I screwed up both of them, so I need to redo this. Alright, so I just redid it, and I can put all these twists in the strap. See, that one's all twisted up. And then put a few in that. You probably don't need that many, honestly, just one twist is probably good. But now the wind can't catch it and make that awful vibration. It just took a minute to fix, so let's jump back on the road and see if I'm right. Alright, so we're back on the road going 45, 50, and all that, that vibration noise is completely gone. Sometimes you'll be on the interstate and you'll see semi-trucks with a bunch of straps on the trailer over a load. You'll see a vertical band just buzzing away like that, same thing. And occasionally, or actually fairly often, you'll see where they put one good twist in the straps. And the reason that the truckers do that is because it keeps the straps from vibrating. And if they're vibrating long enough and that high frequency, they can actually loosen themselves. So that's a trucker trick, and I should have known better when I first strapped this up, but it slipped my mind. But it only took a minute to correct, and now we're on our way. I spent several years working in a fab shop that cleaned every piece of new material that came into the shop. It had to be completely degreased. And at first I thought that was kind of ridiculous, but the more time I spent there and the more time I worked with the material that came in, the more I appreciated the cleanliness of it. And now one of my biggest pet peeves is working with greasy metal. So my routine, anytime I take fresh steel home to my house before I start working with it, is I degrease it. I prefer denatured alcohol. It's not toxic and it does a really good job. It's also fairly inexpensive. You can use it for other things as well, like cleaning glass or camp stove fuel, so it has multiple purposes. It's the next morning. We're about to make a whole bunch of noise and wake all the neighbors up. My neighbors love me. Anyway, here's the little sketch I did here of what we're making. And right now the tabletop is over at the water jet cutter. It's 3/8 of an inch thick plate, 8 by 4 feet. It's about 500 pounds, just the tabletop. And so all that material I picked up yesterday is just for the structure, of the table, the frame here. And basically I'm just going to start cutting all this stuff out of the material we already picked up. My legs are going to be 30 inches, and the 30-inch part is going to go on the bottom side of another 2-inch tube. I'm not going to have mitered corners, so it's going to be 32. And then the casters that I don't have yet, the wheels, they're probably going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 inches. So I'm hoping my deck height of this table is going to end up around 36. But I want to show you guys what I do here when I lay things out for cutting. So 30-inch mark, I'm actually going to mark just a touch shy of 30. Let me hook the end here. All right, there we go. So I'm kind of in between 29 and 15/16 and 30 inches, and then I put an X on the cut side right here, and that way my blade is going to end up on that side of the line. That's what the X represents. So my finished cut piece is going to be exactly 30 inches. If I marked the 30-inch line and cut it, all my pieces would end up being just a little too short. Seems like every time I post a video with me using a grinder without a guard on it, a lot of you guys get real excited in the comments. Well, how am I supposed to fit a 6-inch zip wheel on a 4.5-inch grinder if it has a guard on it? I have just about all my parts cut, and now I'm ready to start sticking them together. I wish I had a flat floor, but I have the worst garage floor out of anybody. It's all kinds of crazy. I'll show you guys here in a second. But I got to figure out a way to start sticking this together without a flat surface to end up with a perfectly flat table. That's my goal. And I've got a couple ideas. There's a few tricks we can do, but I'm just going to try to keep everything as simple as possible. I've gone ahead and clamped this up. And this is how the pieces are going to go together. I'm just using another piece of material from the table right here that I've taken 2 C-clamps and just clamped down. This will be the leg from one of the tables, and this is the long piece that runs underneath. And by clamping them on this piece of material kind of near each other, we know that these two are on plane with each other because of that. And we don't care about how this thing's sitting on the wood down there. Just lift it up so you get the clamps underneath it. And once that's clamped, I'm just going to want to make sure it's square, and I'm doing this with one hand, so it's a little bit tricky trying to hold all this. But basically it's nice and square, and we're ready to tack this up on this side. Then we're going to repeat the process down there where my dog is hanging out, and just start tacking away. I'm not going to do a whole lot of welding yet because it's going to pull, so I'm going to basically assemble as much as possible just with some good positive hot tacks. I'll actually be using a brand new machine for this project. I've had this Hobart Handler 140 for I think 3 years now, and it's a 120 volt only machine, and it's actually really impressed me, and it's been a great welder for the time that I've had it. It's actually seen quite a bit of welding, but I finally stepped up to a little bit nicer machine here, and I'll be using this Miller Multimatic 215, and this machine has actually never welded. I just got it set up, everything's brand new on it, and you guys are going to see the very first sparks coming off this machine. and hopefully everything works real nice, because I'm pretty excited to have this. This is a 120 or 240 volt machine. It's assembled here in the USA in Appleton, Wisconsin. And let's get, this thing's never had gas to it. I just got it all plumbed up. Let's crack this valve. Oh yeah. Here, stick your ear down here for me. Hear any leaks? Good. Fire this puppy up. Oh yeah. Okay, machine's on. Let's go ahead and squeeze a little wire out and check our regulator. Make sure we're at about 20 cubic feet per hour of flow. Wrong way. Looks pretty good right about there. All right, let's connect our ground on the ground. That's why I'm building the table. And get some sparks going. So we verified that the legs were square when I tacked this up. And then you want to just shoot an eyeball down this, what it's called, where you visually align the leg closest to you and the one further away. And you just kind of move your body, your head back and forth. And just to make sure that those are parallel. And they are. Not a problem there. So everything's square, everything's parallel. Got this one tacked up over here. And now we're ready to start putting in our cross pieces. And that's going to be the trickier part, is connecting the two of these and keeping them nice and flat. So I have both my side pieces here stood up, and I dropped these spacers in between. These are cut at 38 inches, and they will be going in between here and here and down there where they're at. But I just put them down there right now to get an approximate measurement of where this is going. And then I clamped this one in here to hold it in place. And that way we can make sure that they're on the same plane now, here to there, all the way across on my crazy wackadoodle floor. But before we start welding anything in, I need to pull measurements from that corner all the way across to there, and that corner back to this one. And pulling diagonals is what it's called. But we're going to do that to make sure that everything is squared up. You know, if like this piece here, it may need to shift forward or shift back to be perfectly parallel, or perfectly parallel to this one over here. And then I can put in my other 38-inch pieces from here to here and over there as well, and clamp the other runner in there to make sure everything's staying nice and flat and true as much as possible. 99 and 9/16. (99 and 9/16). All right. So that tells us that our two pieces are perfectly parallel, square to each other. So I've taken my spacer piece, and this will be going in right here. I've taken it from the bottom, slid it up. I don't have any bar clamps right now that are big enough to go across this table, so I've got a ratchet strap. That's all I got. It's super jankety, I know, but hopefully this will give some of you guys inspiration to do projects like this, even if you're not properly equipped. So this thing is just loose in here. Just trying to get it down into place. Okay, and if I can tighten this up without dumping the table, breaking all my tacks and redoing all the work I just did, I'll be super stoked. Okay, that's scary tight. There we go. Now it's still a little high right here and over here, but I can take a dead blow, and just kind of work this down, bump it around until everything planes out nice and flat all the way across. Then we'll double check for square on the legs before we start tacking anything in. I have a lot of the table welded up now, and I've been cutting some parts. I picked up some more material. This is 1 3/4 120 wall square tube, and what I'll be doing with this is sleeving or slugging the corners, all 4 corners, leaving it out about 3/8 of an inch. It's a tight enough fit, and I'll be able to weld all 4 sides of that. And what that is going to do is reinforce just this edge of the table. It goes 12 inches in, and what this will be is a receiver for my vices that are over there. So I'll build a plate, and then a 1 1/2 120 wall, which I also picked up, fits real snug right inside of that tube, and that'll be like a receiver, like on your rig, you know, for towing. These are just some real ugly stringers I stuck on here real quick to tie these together better, but they're all going to be sanded off like I did here. Once I weld these in, those need to be flat because the 3/8 top is going to sit flush on there. Alright, well, I've got 4 of these cut, and then I'm going to be doing basically the same thing for the feet. So I'll flip the table over and welding those in as well. I picked up some casters. They're okay. Nothing too crazy. They're about $9 a piece. 4 of them, locking casters. I think they're rated at, I don't know, rated at something, but they'll be sufficient. So the table's upside down now, and I have all 4 of these slugs welded into the feet. And then I have these 12-inch pieces of 1 1/2 120 wall cut, and this is what the caster will weld onto right here. But let me show you this fit inside of the 1 3/4 tube. There we go. So you can kind of see what I'm going for here. So the table's adjustable, and I'll wiggle it back and forth. That's all we got. So it's a really a nice snug fit. To secure the legs in place, I was going to drill and tap this, and that would probably work because this is about 3/16 of an inch thick after it's doubled up. But I've got a bunch of these 3/8 nuts laying around and bolts, so I'm thinking it'll work just fine if I drill a 3/8 hole in this, and then I'll just weld these on to all 4 corners, and I won't have to do any tapping, and we should be good to go. Alright, so these are just welded up. This one's still smoking, it's nice and hot. I've got the other 3 in there, and let me show you here. Just drop this in the hole, get the line up, kaboom, just like that. Let's see here. That should work. And so I didn't go crazy welding these. I just put some real small little 1/2-inch beads on there, and I did that because it'll just make it easier to remove these if I decide to change them out for a nicer caster in the future. But for now, these will definitely work, and those welds will certainly hold fine. And so those are 12 inches long that go down inside here, and then that tightener will go right there, and I'll be able to lock these slam down like it is now, or if I need to compensate for uneven ground, I can simply put these anywhere I need and then tighten up that 3/8 bolt. And if for some reason, I don't know why, but if for some reason we need to lift the whole table higher, I have 12 inches of potential adjustment for the entire table. So, all right, let's flip this puppy over. Check it out, we're making progress. So I got my 45-degree pieces in, They're all welded up now. Everything lines up real good. And all my tubes are still straight and everything's parallel to one another. And remember, this whole thing, this whole table, every part is cut with a zip wheel. And there's still, after all that cutting, that 6-inch zip wheel is finally down to about the size of a 4.5-inch zip wheel. That's kind of why I like those. And still have all my fingers too. So everything went pretty good. I was trying some different settings here and there with the new machine, and it works really good actually. And I've used several machines with auto set, and I haven't quite found it to be perfect. It's usually a little too hot with Miller products. However, the auto set on this machine, even though I'm still getting used to it, I really think it's real close to being ideal for how I like to weld. So that is a pleasant, I was going to say surprise, but maybe it's not a surprise. It's a pleasant feature. All right, well at this point, basically I'm just waiting on the top, and that's still over at the water jet cutter. They're cutting all the clamp slots in it right now. So hopefully here in the next day or two I'll be getting a call and picking that thing up. So I just got word the table is done. My buddy Isaac was nice enough to take a few hours off work. We're heading over to the water jet place right now to pick it up. And on the trailer in the back there, we loaded the table frame up because I don't have a forklift at home, so we're going to use the water jet guy's forklift to put the table on the frame, and then we'll just wheel it off the trailer that it's on when we're back at my house somehow. And all together, this table is going to be about 700 pounds, maybe even heavier with the top on it.
Sticker it, or just try to peel it off of there?
We can try to peel it off. Hey, flat's good. We like flat.
We'll take flat.
Yeah. After we arrived back at my place from the water jet cutter, we unloaded the trailer by tilting the deck of the trailer. I hooked the winch to it, and then I was able to let out some line, and we controlled the descent of the table down the trailer. Well, controlled it as much as possible.
Contact.
And once it was on the ground on all four wheels, it actually rolls around real nice, and even at its 700-pound weight, I'm able to manipulate it by myself pretty well because these casters work excellent. There's a lot of different ways to cut steel, but to me the water jet process is really interesting, and it leaves a really nice edge. It feels almost like a 120, 180 grit sandpaper, I would kind of describe it. One of my favorite things about the water jet is that it doesn't introduce any heat to the material, so there isn't any chance of warpage. Now realistically, if you wanted to make a table like this out of 1/4 inch or even 3/8 thick material like I did, and you weren't able to find a water jet cutter in your area to cut these slots, and you could only find a guy with a plasma table or a laser table, you probably wouldn't experience any warping. I just like the idea of keeping everything as flat as possible. Also, for the sake of keeping things flat, I decided not to weld this tabletop down to my frame. Instead, I bolted it using countersunk Allens, and that was pretty easy to do. I just drilled the holes all the way through my frame, used some 2.5-inch flathead Allens, and countersunk the holes for them, tightened them up, and they came out real nice. Right now I just have the 4 corners bolted down. I might add 2 more in the middle, but at this time it's not necessary. The table certainly isn't going to go anywhere. On the bottom I used weld washers just because the Allens that were available at my local store were so short that I couldn't actually get a nut on them. But the weld washers are kind of nice, and they actually keep everything low profile on the bottom of the tube, so you aren't likely to snag your finger on it or something. All right guys, so that is going to be it for today's episode on this welding table. We will have several projects coming up that I'll be doing on this table. Probably the first one is going to be building a nice welding cart for the new machine over there, because it really sucks having it on a bench where you can only reach what's in reach of the leads. So a mobile welding cart is essential in any garage or shop, whatever you have. So we'll be doing that for sure. If you guys have any questions about this table that I can answer, please leave a comment below. I do read every single comment in all of my videos. If you guys aren't already subscribed, we'd really appreciate it if you take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the blue bells for notifications. Also, something we recently started doing is we set up a Patreon page for BleepinJeep, and that's actually going really well. We have a lot of patrons already signed up, and along with that you get some perks that are available only to the Patreon supporters. So if you are interested in that, please support us. We would really appreciate it, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So if you're interested in seeing what the perks are, go ahead and check that out. And then any products you saw in this video, these clamps from Miller as well as that welder, we're also going to leave links for that stuff too. So alright guys, well this was a really fun project for me. This is a huge improvement. Even though this table dominates my garage space, it's easy enough to roll out, and this is something that I've wanted for a long time. I finally have it. I'm super stoked. It's super flat, which is the key part, and now anything that I build on this, that flat quality is going to translate to that project. So good stuff to come in the future. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.